Good morning, and thank you all for joining us for the very first edition of the Captain Cement and Concrete Leader Series. Joining us today, we have got Mr. Joey Ghose, who is the CEO of Raysut Cement in Oman. Thank you for joining us this morning, Mr. Ghose.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Great. So we have a few questions for you. The very first one is, I think, quite pertinent and on everybody's mind at the moment. And that is your perspective on sustaining and growing in unusual times. So in particular reference to COVID-19 and what your business has been doing to kind of mitigate the risks of that, as well as how you plan to take this forward for the next few years.
Yeah, thank you. Our business suffered significantly from March. Primarily because we are 50% export oriented. Our customers range from East Africa to South Africa, Indian Ocean Islands. And when the COVID-19 hit us, we couldn't export because most of the ports imposed quarantine, and that led to long delays at the ports, and certain ports were also closed. So our business suffered a huge loss in the first 2 quarters of 2020, as did most of the rest of the companies, I believe. And also domestically, with most businesses going into lockdown, the local demand tapered off, although it kept trickling, at a very low base, but the big demand, of course, came to a halt. So all of that compounded into a significant loss for us. However, that was not I think that's improving now. We are able to export a lot more and sell locally more. But the one thing that we were impacted by most was the spare parts and other consumable shortages which suffered. At Raysut Cement, over the past 5 years, we have gone into what we call just-in-time inventory or consignment inventory. We don't carry a lot of stocks anymore. We let our suppliers do that. And most of it is regional, mainly in the UAE. And they provide us as and when we need the spare parts. But when this happened, everything came to a standstill. And the savings that we had enjoyed over the last 5 years were wiped out in the first 2 months. So that has now brought us back to the drawing board, and we have started re-looking at becoming more and more self-sufficient, whereby we need to carry the essential spare parts, long lead spare parts ourselves. We need to maybe outsource less, although today's buzzwords are outsourcing and all of these things. But when we look at our numbers and we looked at the situation, and we had a lot of time to do that. We had 4 months to sit back and think and re-strategize. Yeah. And we've come up with the solution that to remain sustainable, firstly, we need to be a lot more self-sufficient. We need to do a lot more work in-house. And cutting costs has to be sustainable. So we have to look at a longer view when we look at, just an immediate cost cut. Is it sustainable in the long term? And is it going to be able to survive a situation like this, which is unexpected?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we feel that to survive and to remain sustainable, one has to re-look at the way we do business completely. Life is not going to be the same again. We have to travel less, maybe. We have to do a lot more Zoom calls and manage our businesses remotely by artificial intelligence, rather than having the essential need to jump on a plane and be at your business unit. We need to empower our people more. And as I said, we need to look at the markets we want to be in and ensure each and every business unit is, to a certain degree, self-sufficient in that market.
Yes.
I believe this is the way forward for the industry and companies like us at Raysut. We are leading this change in the way we do business.
Thank you. Very interesting. And I suspect the just-in-time strategy would have to kind of continue to look at that in the next few years as well.
Absolutely.
The second question relates to it somewhat, because I do think that COVID and all the challenges that presents is probably the biggest challenge for not only cement production, but all industry. But in terms of the cement and concrete production industry specifically, what would you say would be the top two challenges that the industry as a whole faces?
You see, I believe that these challenges were prevailing even before the COVID-19. And the first challenge is that there is a massive oversupply in the global cement production. And specifically in the Middle East, where we operate. The Middle East has an overcapacity of some 40 million tons of cement per annum, driven mainly by the UAE and Saudi Arabia. These two countries built a lot of capacities in the boom years of the 2000s, when infrastructure and all were developed in these markets. And now that overcapacity is pouring into the region. With that, added to that, we have a lot of unrest in the region, whereby markets like Yemen and Syria, Iraq are still in turmoil, and so that demand is not really visible anymore. It will come in the future, but for now it doesn't exist. So then we have the situation with Iran, which has 100 million ton capacity, but the economy is suffering with all the sanctions. So the only way that they can get foreign exchange is by pushing out as much cement and clinker they can, which the government is subsidizing there, and it is hitting the market at very, very low prices. So this is going to be a major issue, this oversupply situation. It is impacting us all and the globe, I believe, as well. You have exports now from Iran reaching as far as China, and the Chinese economy is also a little bit stretched at the moment. So that's the first issue, I think, that we'll have to sit back and, as an industry, we need to see, where is this going? Dropping prices is not sustainable. This is a long-term, when we invest in a cement plant, we are looking at $250 million and above.
Yeah.
Now, not many countries or economies will be able to sustain their investments if this situation prevails. So it's important that, somewhere along the line, the governments start looking at this issue, which could lead to a complete collapse of a vital, key industry in many geographies.
Yes.
The second issue that I think is a very big macro factor is the overall dependability, or what we like to call today globalization. Everybody feels that we now live in a global world, so the competitive edge of a nation should dictate who supplies what product to the globe. But as we saw in this pandemic, we are still very localized. When things go wrong, then it's very, very local. And in that, I believe that it is now the duty of many of the governments to start creating some barriers or some controls over what industries can be considered as a global industry and what are critical industries for the survival of a country's economy. And cement, I believe, is the big one, apart from energy and steel, where governments need to intervene and say we do need adequate protection for our local industry. These are strategic industries, critical industries. They cannot be subject to global trends and oversupplies or factors. This, I think, will start surfacing. We do a lot of business in Africa. We are beginning to see that happening. I think this second one is even more risky and more dangerous to the survival of the cement industry unless the government start intervening.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. And following that, where would you say the greatest opportunities are for growth? I mean, you've mentioned some quite, I would say, strong challenges and kind of barriers to moving forward. Are there any growth opportunities or other opportunities?
Absolutely, there are a lot of growth opportunities. To me, the continent of Africa still has significant potential. In my opinion, the next 50 years is for Africa. And the sooner that some form of focus is given to Africa, Africa is such a vast continent with different countries, cultures, motivators, and you cannot treat Africa as one region and say, right, this is our African strategy. Yeah. Companies all over the world, and especially us here at Raysut, we have looked at Africa, segregated it, segmented it, and have a strategy for each and every country. And they are different. Believe me, they are very different because the motivators are different. The local governments are different. So we have to get in there whereby we have to create value in the country. We cannot look as Africa as a country you export to anymore. You have to embrace it and say, we will do business in Africa with the Africans as partners. We cannot remain as suppliers. So that to me is a big opportunity. We at Raysut are embracing this opportunity. We are going in there and we are setting up companies with local partners. And these local partners have the knowledge of how to work in that country, whilst we bring in the technical knowledge, the funds, and start off in a phase where we start off. We did a lot of trading over many years with the Africans. Now it's time to partner in the grinding unit and then move into a fully integrated plant. These are the stages, and we are already in stage 2. To me, Africa is the big opportunity. Those that get in there quickly with a sustainable model, having buy-in from locals, adding value to the local economies, and being part of that economy. I think that is where we have positioned ourselves as Raysut, and I feel that is what is going to be the survival. I would even go as far as saying survival for our company, for sure, and many other companies.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about survival, what would you say your position or perspective on 4IR and the next revolution? How will kind of technology play a role? How is it improving, and how are you embracing this?
Well, I think technology is going to play a big role in the way we manufacture cement, not only in the way we manufacture, apart from all the other sides, the way we manage the business and how we get, just-in-time inventory and just-in-time information to make those decisions. In the old days, when I was a young engineer, I had a radio and I was on the cement plant and I had to radio everything to my manager, who would then radio back an instruction. Today, we have a central control room, and I think that's going to become much more sophisticated. And all this automation will give us a cleaner, better, more efficient product, and also enable us to tailor more products to the needs of the market.
Yes.
So it's going to be very important to embrace technology, new technologies, not only for companies' performance, but for the environment as well.
Yeah.
These days, we can reduce the environmental damage that we have been doing historically significantly. And even I know plants that have actually reversed it and are now greener and are actually adding green value to the globe. So it's very important for us here. We are embracing this. We are modernizing our plants. And also the way we do business is very important. I think we need to have more systems in place whereby individual managers get real-time information and are empowered to take that decision, to take any corrective measure or to change the mix. We are in a process industry. very chemical, with high uh, heat intensity and high energy consumption. So if these managers or employees are all empowered with real-time information to take corrective actions, I think it'll improve the way we work.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I think it's also important, as I said, that this 4IR, we have to look at the markets. Yeah, it's not about growing for the sake of a number. I think it's important that we grow in those markets that need the industry,
Yes.
not only for the market demand, but also for the employment, for the betterment of the livelihoods of those populations.
Yeah.
Uh, that I think is very key. And at Raysut, we are looking very deeply into this. We, for the past 30 years, have been exporting about 50 to 60,000 tons of cement a month to Somalia. And now, this year, we have decided we will build a plant there. Now, if we build a plant there, we create jobs. We create 400 direct jobs.
Yeah.
We will use 50% local materials. I think this is what the Industrial Revolution should look at, creating value in the market, create the jobs. This brings ownership of local population for your plant,
Yeah.
and they will look after them. Nobody wants to destroy their own backyard. So I think if you look at these countries like Somalia, South Sudan, Mozambique, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi are some of the markets we are going into. But it's no longer a trading strategy. It's now we go in there, we partner locally, we have to create value locally.
Yeah.
That is, to me, is sustainability. That will keep your business running for the next 50 years at least. And that's the way forward, yeah,
Yeah.
in this for IR.
Yeah. Okay. And then regional factors for, I suppose, in Oman, but also more broadly in the Middle East that are influencing this industry. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, as I said in the beginning, we have two markets which are really disrupting the regional gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
We all understand that the region is not enjoying high oil prices anymore, and we are very much an oil-dependent region. The Middle East is,
Yeah.
and then we have all these turmoils going on, and there's these wars, and which are all causing stress in the economy, compounded with the fact that the UAE and Saudi Arabia have vast excess capacities. This is really putting pressure, yeah. So when you have that basic pressure, then it filters down to the downstream industry, where you have the major core component like cement companies fighting for market share.
Yeah.
You start destroying the value in the whole chain. And now you have the downstream ready mix companies, construction companies, all losing money.
Yeah.
So somewhere we have, and sometime very soon, it requires some higher level body to form a group, a focus committee to bring some sanity here. Yeah.
Right.
It is always, the Chinese have done a great job. If you look at the China market over the past 10 years, in the early from 2010 till 2007, 8 were boom years, and then 2001 to 10 were boom years, 10 to 15 were disaster years because they had 100% overcapacity. But the government intervened, formed a committee, and said, take away a lot of the capacity, the old capacities which are damaging the earth in terms of pollution, inefficient capacities, take them off, limit the modern technology,
Yeah.
size, limit the size of the plant, which then enables the industry to flourish. And they have done that very successfully without hurting anyone.
Yeah.
We should try and replicate that in this region, where it will require a lot of work, it will require a lot of high-level involvement to bring some stability. And to me, that is very, very important. Within Oman as well, we are facing a serious challenge of dumping from the UAE.
Yeah.
We are working with the governments, both the governments, to bring some sanity and some, control over this. But if that doesn't happen, then I feel that Oman is going to remain very stressed when it comes to the cement industry.
Okay. I see there is a lot to think about and consider, and I imagine your days must be very busy. But tell us a little bit about the man behind the machine. So when you're not focusing on all of these problems, what do you like to do in your free time?
I enjoy motorsport very much. I have a collection of historic cars, classic cars, dating back to the 60s and 70s. And I participate in motor rallies, long endurance rallies, which span like 3 to 5,000 kilometers, mainly in Africa. And so that takes up a lot of time. You have to be very fit to be able to survive these endurance rallies, motor rallies, like the classic safari rally. So I have to remain fit. So I spend a lot of time in the gym, say an hour a day. And that's my main passion. I also, I'm very, I like sports a lot. So whenever I get a chance, I go out and play tennis. Um, and I like to, in my role, I have to actually mix and network quite a bit. So that's me. I like to stay active and have a 10 to 12 hour working day, but also a 4 hour relaxing day where I keep fit and I look at my cars and I make sure they're ready for the next event and organize all.
That's very interesting. Sure, I can imagine you very, very busy inside the office and out. So, having said that, thank you very much for your time. It was very interesting talking to you and to have such an accomplished person as the very first interviewee of our series.